So the last session of the day is with Ivy Ross, who's been a dear friend for many years. Ivy is the Vice President of Design for the hardware organization at Google. Over the past 4 years, she and her team have launched 30 plus products, winning over 160 global design awards. This collection of hardware established a new Google design ethic that is tactile, colorful, and bold. So welcome, Ivy.
Thank you. It is tactical too.
Yeah, it's tactical and tactile.
It's a tactic to do good design.
It's so great to have you here, and I look forward to just an expansive conversation on the possibility of what technology can bring humanity. And I know, first and foremost, I know you as a practitioner and as somebody who has a deep commitment to consciousness, to healing. And I'm just wondering if you could just kind of begin by telling a little bit about how that journey started. Were you on that journey from, like, if we met Ivy at 8 or 10 or 18 or 28, would that be the same Ivy we met, or was there a certain point in your life where certain things started to matter more than other things, and kind of the inner world became very curious to you?
First of all, thank you. I'm glad to be here. That's a big question.
I know.
Yeah, my second and last husband, who's here, could tell you that I'm the same person, because I knew him when I was 11 years old. He said he was telling someone the other day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I saw you riding your bike, and you realize you are the same person that you are today. But I think I was that little girl my dad was a designer. He painted my room this lavender crown chakra color. All the walls, the ceiling, and the carpet was dyed to match the same color as the walls. So I was in this purple box, and it was my sanctuary. And I, whenever my parents would fight, like all good parents fight, I would run in my sanctuary and I would start beating my drum. And so I started on this consciousness train, essentially by realizing when I would beat the drum, my heart would get in coherence. And I was a very curious child. I think that's why I'm a creative. I always wanted to, if I felt something, I needed to understand it. So I started on this journey of studying Jungian psychology, and then saying, okay, I kind of understand how our head works, but what happens between the two of us? Yeah. And what is energy? What is sound? What is vibration? So for 35 years, it's really, when I think about it, it was out of being curious and needing to, it's a creative act for me to connect the dots of understanding. And so I, at a young age, realized we have to understand what's going on inside as well as outside. Yeah. And I'm just glad that I started that at an early age. And being a creative, understanding color and light, and so all these various modalities, and my whole life has been a journey. As I say, it's not an end game of my work. Got into museums in my 20s, and so some people spend their whole life looking for, if only my work got in a museum, if only I became the vice president of a company. And that happened to me so young, that the gift was realizing that life is about a journey, not about this end holy grail goal. And that was the best gift that came out of having my work in museums, because I do treat life as a journey, and every new curiosity and understanding brings me great joy, and every understanding of myself along the way is super important.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so when you're designing one of these many products at Google, whether it's the next phone or the next audio player, how do you work from the inside out? Do you try to get visions? Do you try to bring your inner intuitive self into that process, or how does that begin to show up?
So, at this level, being
not telling too many secrets.
Being the vice president of design, I am the orchestra conductor. I call myself, of many incredibly talented designers. And so we kind of all agree on I'll call it the piece of music we're going to play. And then my job is to hold that vision and say a little more drums, a little less trombone. But it really does come from this idea that it's data and intuition. I think when we started 5 years ago, we had a sense, all of us as a team, that we had to move from design thinking to design feeling, that we were going to start to crave our objects, not, and especially our technology, not just being shiny functional objects, but that, you know, now that they're part of our lives, we want them to fit into our lives, and they had to be more tactile, more soft and human, more sensorial. So that is something that it's hard to describe. It's kind of pure magic. You know, I think designers can tap into often where society is moving toward, and you know, we're all very sensitive. So through conversations, the team kind of aligned on this design language that, yeah, I'm really grateful for, because I think people are responding to it because it is different, and really understanding these principles of neuroaesthetics, which is that aesthetics and which is everything that makes our senses come alive, is super important and critical for our well-being. I mean, you know, I think we've become a little flatlined as a nation, which is why I think you see so much depression. I mean, this was even pre-COVID. But I think we put aside some of these sensorial activities in an effort to optimize for productivity.
Right.
And I think as a society, we're craving some of this. I know that there's doctors in, I think it's London and Canada, that are prescribing people to go to museums. Just, you know, literally a doctor writing a prescription to be able to stand in front of a painting and being in awe or taking in new information. So that was a very long answer to your question.
Sorry.
But it, you know, it's really, we feel our way into it using both, you know, like I said, data and intuition.
Yeah. And what do you feel like is the role of, like, I don't know, the ego, or like this, like, determination, like, I got this, I can figure this out, I have the right thing, everybody get behind me, which I think, you know, some companies have been amazing creative things done from a very kind of male oriented push, knock down the wall till you get through. And then there's other kind of more softer approaches. Do you kind of see it as like you're kind of really listening to the field, or listening to a kind of a deeper element of intelligence, or where do you step in from more of like a, I'm in charge, here's the call, which sometimes somebody has to make, versus kind of feeling into the larger field, if you will?
Yeah, no, it's a fine balance. I absolutely agree. It's like, I feel like I sense, we all together are sensing into something, and I am the accountable one at the end of the day. So it's almost like having a piece of clay and sensing and pushing against, and really listening to everyone. And then, you know, the truth is, often people want to know, they want the comfort of someone saying, yeah, I feel good about this, let's go there. So I think you have to first sense and form and shape, and then name it and get behind it, you know, as a team. And sometimes take chances, but know that your boss is behind it and willing to defend it and stand for it.
Yeah. And as we look at this event is called Mindfulness in the Future of Technology, and as we look at kind of where the future of technology is going, I know we can just maybe speak broadly. Do you have a vision in the Ivy Roth view of where we could go, and technology kind of working in partnership with us and in helping us actually live more awake, conscious lives? Do you have visions of how that might look? Because there's a lot of talk now, of course, of the dangers of technology and how it separates us from each other, from nature, from ourselves, from our inner life. And I'm curious, kind of like, as you look to the future, to the possible future, what are some of the things that excite you, or that you see as a possible vision for us to work towards?
Yeah, so I view technology as a tool. And, you know, humanity has always had tools. And I think, was it Kevin Kelly, his definition of technology is anything man-made. But I do believe that these tools can be helpful to give us insights about ourselves, but then we have to be accountable to use those insights. So we can't hand it over entirely, I believe. I think it has to be a collaboration between man and technology. But I do think that using it to sense and give us information about ourselves, whether it's the state of mind we're in or our physiology, and then to enable us to do something about it. Because I do think that we have everything we need inside of us, but sometimes we need to get information about what's going on and how we can go back to our original blueprint. And technology can help us get there. I also think technology has been amazing in terms of reaching out, getting information, connecting with people. I think the amount of people, for example, that have learned to meditate through technology is fantastic. I mean, you know, there's some of us that didn't need technology to get there, and there's others, I think it's done an incredible job to get more people meditating. And so I think, like anything, it's both and, it's not either or. It's not letting it do our human job for us, but it's a tool to help us understand our humanity and to keep us healthy and well. And I do think it's going to, you know, for me, this idea of it will sense things that we may not even be aware of, and that enable us to react is a good thing.
Yeah. And when because I know you explore various different modalities of healing and consciousness and things that work with energy. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about your own personal journey on particularly this whole subtle energy world, that there's the physical that we're showing up with, but there's this kind of subtle, invisible or mystical, or I don't know what we want to call it, other element of life. And I'm curious, like, what are you doing, if you don't mind sharing some of what you're doing and on a personal level to kind of explore that and what that might tell us about where we can go with technology or where we can go with innovations that kind of support that deeper understanding of behind the veil or behind the physical, that the mystical element, or maybe we're too early on, or maybe that's for a different topic.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone to the Academy of Intuition Medicine and studied, and you know, this has been in all kinds of religions, I think, say it in different ways, you know, about the multitude of bodies, the physical, the mental, the spiritual. And it's been a practice of mine. It's been interesting through all of my corporate jobs to learn how to sense the energy of, you know, different people, different groups, and try and find ways to even get people on the same wavelength together. You know, can you take people whose energy is different, no judgment, but get them on the same wavelength? And so there are things like at Google, I installed some sound beds with transducers, and the designers have an app that they can program, schedule 15-minute sessions listening through headphones that puts them in different, there's a setting for creativity or for de-stressing. And so using sound and binaural.
They actually go into a physical compartment of sort, or
well,
is it?
There's a room, and there's two different, they're almost like massage table beds with transducers. So they can, with a screen in between, and they can book time to go in there and put them in this more relaxed state. And I've had people come out of there going, oh my God, there's been an issue I needed to solve with one of my coworkers I've been avoiding for a month. And after I took these headphones off and got in this place, I approached them and solved the problem. So I think the future, and that's what I mean by technology being a tool. It's like, if we can't get into certain states of mind, or we can't empty the monkey mind, you know, if we can put ourselves in a more creative vibe or a more open vibe, it's amazing what comes out of that. So I'm getting more, I think we're constantly fine tuning ourselves as we learn to work with energy, of sensing it and shaping it and feeling it for our own health. Like, you know, I could feel now when things are, when things are starting to come into the physical body that I might need to clear. So, but for me, the interesting thing of being in corporations is it's been this great petri dish of understanding how the beauty of, quite frankly, the diversity of different people, different fields. And for
Yeah.
me, it's been, how do I bring those fields together to yield the most creative output? Because
Right.
I think, luckily, I've always been running creative departments, which makes it a lot easier than running accounting departments,
Right.
right? When you're kind of interested in this work.
You're given a little more leeway.
Yeah, a little more freedom, because people just want results. You know, they
Yeah.
don't really understand, most people, the creative process. And so, yeah, I think, yeah, it's been remarkable to keep just deepening my own studies and then put it into practice in a very subtle way. Yeah, and I think especially with this virus, you know, we've learned the power of the invisible in some, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there's the invisible good and the invisible bad. And it's like, how do we get more in coherence with energy and the invisible? And I think we have to, and with nature. I mean, I think, you know, Mother Nature sent us to our rooms and said, don't come out of it, you know, with this virus, go to your rooms and think about what you've been doing for 50 years and don't come out of your room until you have a more balanced perspective.
Yeah.
And I think part of that perspective, you know, is the fact, I was talking to a friend today, and we were talking about the fact that we're moving from almost a fixation on substance to a discovery of how we use signals to send to each other or to our body. And so I think that's what we are trying to, a lot of this breaking down of our systems is about, is to get away from just the pure substance.
Yeah, and there's thousands of different modalities to do that. Is that there's not just one modality in which to do that? Is that
Oh yeah, no, and I believe that people need to find, I'm never, you know, a lot of friends come to me and say, how do I begin this journey? And the beautiful thing is there are so many different, it's like when I say the different religions that underneath it all are saying the same thing in some ways, it's just marketing.
Right.
I think it's the same way with some of these modalities, is it's what appeals to you. You know, what do you resonate with? That there, a lot of them are getting you to the same place, but it's great that we have choice.
Yeah.
And sometimes friends will come to me, and since I've experienced a lot of them, I can kind of feel into which one might be, you know, or a book will come off my bookshelf and I'll say this is on the beginning of the journey. But you know, I am so grateful. This has been an amazing time to be alive. Like, never, when I started on this journey as a young girl, never would I have realized that we would be where the world is today, where I think it's super challenging, but also super inspiring in terms of where we can move to as a humanity. And so you know, you often look back on your life and you go, you don't see it when you're doing it, but the dots start to connect.
Yeah.
And that is, yeah, that's been wonderful. I'm actually inspired by where we're gonna, I have hope that we're gonna, get to a good place together.
One of the, I mean, certain people have the notion or the theory that, you know, part of kind of how we got into this situation was a kind of like an over reliance on the masculine, and that the softer, feminine, more yielding hasn't been what our society has really supported. And so that's why kind of we have some of the challenges that we have, particularly on the planet basis, that this kind of extra effort to extract and not to be in harmony with. And I know you've walked in all kinds of different environments and all kinds of businesses, some that are probably, most of them are more in the mental, you know, they're run by kind of strong energies and strong visions. and this kind of more intuitive, softer, just as powerful other energy is super valuable. And I'm curious, how do you find if we're in situations where it feels like there's not that more intuitive, there's not a space for the more intuitive or yielding, how might we incorporate that, or how might you see we could bring that more, we can make space for that in the world? And I'm thinking of Brene Brown's work around vulnerability that kind of became really, really popular. And before that, nobody ever talked about vulnerability. And now it's like to be vulnerable is like a positive thing. And that wasn't always the case. And I'm wondering, from your work in different worlds, how do you see that moving forward? And how do we bring that other side, that other intelligence out more?
Yeah, it's interesting. In fact, 5 years ago at Google, Danielle, who you know, and I started the empathy lab at Google, which was, people didn't even know what the word empathy or, you know, and we did that because we looked around and we said, oh my God, you know, we're coding, everyone needs to understand. And we actually brought Brene Brown in. So I am someone that models quietly and shows results, you know, because many people believe that there is only one way versus this, the different way of, and I don't believe, you know, I think we all have to get to a point where we embody the masculine and feminine tools in our toolbox. It doesn't matter what body you're in, or, you know, what software you were loaded with, that we both have to understand that there are times when you need to use each of them. And you're absolutely right. I think our Mother Earth has suffered because of we've been taking too much from her versus being in resonance with her. And so I believe in, you know, this whole regenerative economy that we have to create now. And even really the designers and I are working very deeply into sustainability. But to answer your question, I think we have to just start modeling it and people seeing the results. You know, it's like, I think during COVID, I saw an article that the women leaders who were leading their countries had better results with COVID than, and again, I hate to say male versus female because it's just the principles, right? But what can we learn from those approaches? I think it now it just has to, we're showing up, and I work with a group of women to empower them to do imagery work to get rid of some of that suppression of, you know, it's hard to show up in a different way than a world that thinks that there's only this path to success. So I think it takes a lot of us, you know, brave people to be ourselves, or women to be ourselves. And I even remember when I was challenged by someone in the company when I said, you know, we need to make this color. And the person said to me, just happened to be a male, well, where's the data, you know, for that? And I said, well, the data is in my unconscious, you know, my unconscious of all the information I take in. I've heard that 90% goes to your unconscious and 10% goes to your frontal lobe. And so quite frankly, when I get a hit that it should be blue, it's actually using more data than my frontal lobe. And so he just kind of looked at me and walked away. And, you know, so there are times when I've had to defend, but then ultimately it starts to, you know, work and we all prove ourselves. So I think there's no other way than to start being fearless, to show up who we are and get to good results by modeling different behavior, like those women did who ran those countries. And hopefully that will speak for itself.
Yeah, I had a teacher that used to say that there's no way you can know the truth, you can only be the truth. And we can define truth in different ways, but being it has a whole different level of expression than telling somebody what to do, which for those of us who have kids, we sometimes learn that kind of hard way. And so I'm curious, Ivy, as we kind of finish up, how do you see, you know, we all come to life with a certain kind of purpose or karma, or there seems to be some, life kind of puts us into positions, right? And we're trying to navigate this. And you seem to be in a very unique one in the sense of like this like fascination and curiosity and real passion for the inner dimension. And yet this very kind of high position job to kind of with all kinds of people and influence on the in the external technology world. Um, when you kind of look at like, okay, how do I define who I really am or what my karmic path here? Is it the merging of those two, or is it too hard to define? Or how would you say that life is kind of using you or guiding you at this juncture in life?
It's so funny. I went to pull out, I was just at, up in Shasta, and I had a woman who looks at your picture and kind of does a soul portrait. And the first line of what she said, I just smirked when you asked me, because I read it and I'm like, wow, I think that is what I am. It says, yeah, and she just did this by looking at my image, and she gets downloads, but a leader to bring up an infinite possibilities to the consciousness of people.
Wow.
So I feel like I've been given the gift. I remember when I turned 40 and I was like a senior vice president, and I said to myself, how did I become this successful? Like, this was not I wasn't one of those people that went for an MBA and said, I must be this by this time. And the little voice in my head said, to get the credibility to do the real work. And so I think that, and I get chills when I think about that. And that's when I decided to embrace it and go, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. That I got the gift of the design talents and abilities, and just kept following my passion and my skill and my heart. And I realized that it was to get the credibility to do the real work. And the real work is really, and I've done this with creative teams. I mean, I get great joy when I can help people find their passion and their joy, and when they're operating at their highest potential.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by, I'm the orchestra conductor showing people the beautiful music that they can make together, versus me being one of the instruments. And that's my joy in climbing the corporate ladder, quote unquote, is to be able to be the orchestra conductor.
Yeah. And to hopefully have creations that come through you into the world that have the vibration of that and have the feeling of that, right? Because I think people feel that.
No, you're absolutely right. I proved in one company the vibration in which something is created does come through to the consumer. So I think that matters. It really does. It does matter. And I think this is some of the invisible stuff that we're going to learn over time. That the energy and the way in which something is made, or how those people made it together, it does transfer into the world. And I love that for me, it's the inner and the outer. I create I want to give my team credit, but with my team, beauty in the world. And I mean, bringing, beauty to the inner world at the same time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So we're almost out of time. Anything we did not discuss that you want to make sure to give voice to, or have we covered most of what's on your heart and mind, and anything else that we might have missed that you want to give voice to?
No, you pulled it all out of me.
It's always wonderful to have you, Ivy. Thank you so much. And it's really always just a delight to hear both the personal journey you're on and the professional journey you're on. It gives me hope for what we can all do as a society and a world together in terms of just the ability to harness the inner domain and hopefully let that be expressed through whatever products or services we create. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I think we should not be fearful to pull the inside out. That's the only way this is going to work. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
See you soon.
Yep.
So we are towards the closing of our day, and just a deep, deep thanks to Ivy, to Ruchika and Cecily, who are helping me with the interviews. John Bashu and Scott are behind the scenes, and other people and Haley doing all kinds of amazing work and making all of this flow. This was our first ever event to explore this particular topic. We've always explored it somewhat at Wisdom 2.0, but this is our first time to really kind of give it the kind of focus that that we want, and there's just so much happening in this field. So our intention is to make this a somewhat annual event. We either will do it in person or online, and we're just really excited to continue to foster this conversation. There is a project that we will be announcing very shortly that a number of us are involved in, Ruchika and Cecily and Diego and Jack Hornfield, called Wisdom Ventures. And so our intention is to create a seed funding mechanism to actually support kind of amazing new entrepreneurs in the world who want to help kind of solve some of the great challenges of our day and bring in mindfulness and well-being and human connection. So look forward to an announcement for that in the coming weeks. But just know that we're all very dedicated to this movement. And I think, for us to create anything of a sustainable, livable, regenerative world, we have to be able to support both for-profit and nonprofit companies that show examples of what technology can do that really helps humanity thrive. And we're all very excited to support that in different ways. For those of you who might have missed different parts of this, there will be, it'll probably take us a day or two, but there will be links to all the different interviews that happened today. So we will email you those links, I think by Monday. We'll have to kind of download them all and separate them all and send you those links, but they'll all be up and visible for you. So just know that if you missed something or you were trying to take notes and there's something you want to go back and hear, you don't have to email us. It's coming to you. We'll be sending that to you shortly. And I was so impressed by the speakers this time. I was really touched, and I feel very inspired at what people are doing, whether that's a community meditation to support more human connection, or whether that's kind of rethinking what social media can be, or whether that's how do we bring more consciousness into the technologies that we're creating, like Ivy was talking about. I know I'm leaving this extremely hopeful and feeling like there's a much bigger team of people working on this. And that's really our goal, is how do we expand the number of entrepreneurs? How do we expand the number of investors? How do we expand the number of people who care about this, so that where we put our time and where we put our money is more aligned with our values? And so often I notice myself spending my time and my money in companies that don't necessarily share my values. And we'd love to support companies where kindness, compassion, mindfulness is really at the core of what they do. And we look forward to getting your support on how to do that. I was looking in chats, people are asking, how do you contact Wisdom Ventures? We will be announcing that soon with contact information and other information to kind of let you know when that's live and what our goals are and what our focus is. So that'll be coming soon. And just as I was talking to Margaret and Hope Lab about, there's about whether it's nonprofit or it's about a for-profit, we definitely believe that there's a lot of good that can happen in the for-profit dimension, and that there's a way of making money and also providing positive impact that's absolutely doable. And we really need to have models of businesses that are doing that have the well-being of their clients in mind or their members in mind, and that also create a reasonable return and are doing good in the world at the same time. So that's a vision that we have. And I'm just very excited to have all of you here today. And again, we look forward to doing more of these in the future. So just kind of stay tuned. We are planning an in-person Wisdom 2.0 event mid-January, January 14th to the 16th, about 4 months away. We're watching very closely COVID rates, and we'll have various precautions or various testing and vaccine cards and other things we'll do. Just we're kind of staying up on the latest, that we'll be assessing all of that as we get closer. But please know that that'll be happening in person in the Bay Area. We might be wearing masks, we might not be wearing masks. We just kind of have to wait and see what the data shows, what the scientists show, and what information we have at our resources. But we will be gathering in person, and it'd be great to see all of you. So you can look on our website, wisdom2summit.com, for all that information. And we'll be emailing you more, again, the links to all of this and the updates on Wisdom Ventures and more information soon. And just a deep bow for all of you for taking time from your Friday, or if you're in some other part of the world, a different day, and just joining us here and bringing your full presence and your full heart and your full mind. And I know it really, really matters, like people showing up and showing that they care. and we're all in this together. I think it was Richard who was saying, there's nothing we're going to do by ourselves, but together as a collective. That's where the real secret is. That's the secret sauce, and that's the power of humanity. We not only can create amazing problems, but we can solve amazing problems. And I think we're in that place now, where the beauty of the situation that we're in now is that there's no way that one entity is going to be able to solve this. The government isn't, business isn't, nonprofits aren't, the mindfulness teachers, wisdom teachers aren't on their own, but there's a collective need to rise up and to get a kind of a shared collective wisdom together. And so we're here kind of in the Wisdom 2.0 world to really support that shift in consciousness, and that taking that action into the world, and knowing that we each have a part to play, whether we have a lot of money or no money, or a lot of power or no power, or this fancy position or no fancy position, or whatever we're in, we each have a part to play. And that the level of attention, the quality of the attention that we give to each moment of our day, whether that's saying hello to our kid when they come back from school, or making dinner, or how we address the waiter or waitress at a restaurant, or the person at the store, like each moment matters. And the more we can fully show up for those moments, the more we're planting seeds of consciousness. I remember one of the impactful moments in my life. I think I was in second grade, and there was a substitute teacher, and I remember I had a pen, and the pen wouldn't work very well. And I was like shaking it and trying to get it to work. And this teacher came to me that was just there for that day. And she said, honey, you have to speak kindly to it. And she grabbed my pen and she just kind of whispered something and handed me the pen back. And then it started writing perfectly. Like all of a sudden the ink started writing. She had a huge impact on my life. Like it was this magical, mystical character that entered my life. And, it's like, I don't know, 8 years old in Lubbock, Texas. And I was like, wow, something else is here as well. Like there's this whole other realm. And so we can be those same people for everybody else. Like we might never get credit for it. We might never be remembered. Nobody might ever thank us. We might live our life never knowing, but at least for that moment, we brought something, a quality of love and attention and care. And I feel like that's what we're all about, and doing it in whatever means we can. So again, a deep bow to everybody. Deep thank you. Thank you, Annie, for helping moderate and focus on the groups. Thank you to all presenters and speakers who took their time to be with us today.